Imagine for a second, right, that someone told you that every logical decision you've made today is, well, it isn't actually a sign of high intelligence.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like balancing your household budget or mapping out your career trajectory or even just critically analyzing a problem at work.
Right. The things we usually get praised for.
Exactly. Imagine being told that this rationality you rely on is actually just a symptom of being trapped in like a beginner's phase of existence.
Yeah, it's a deeply unsettling thought, especially for those of us who really pride ourselves on being put together, sensible adults.
Totally.
We treat logic and reason as, the ultimate finish line of personal growth. Society essentially hands you a gold star if you can approach a crisis without emotion and just use pure, unadulterated logic.
Yeah, it's comforting.
It is. It gives us
Yeah.
this illusion of control over a very chaotic world.
Exactly. But today's deep dive is going to challenge that entire operating system. We are exploring this fascinating translated document from July 2023. It's titled A Brief Introduction to Key Points of Spiritual Thinking.
It's quite a title.
It is. It was written by Sufeng, and the translation we're unpacking today was edited by Kinyu. And our mission today is to explore a philosophy that argues human rationality is, well, merely a stepping stone.
Right, just a transitional phase.
Yeah. If you want to achieve what the author calls a celestial state, that logical brain you trust so much, you basically have to leave it behind.
And it is a really profound journey we're going to trace today. We're going to examine Shuifeng's specific tenets of what is termed spiritual thinking, moving from the limitations of the structured mind through some pretty intense internal clearing practices, all the way to a state where abandoning societal constraints supposedly unlocks, literal cosmic freedom.
Okay, let's unpack this because I want to jump straight into the deep end here.
Oh.
Schuffen doesn't just suggest we add a little meditation to our busy schedules, right?
No, not at all.
This philosophy outlines a radical transition from being a merely virtuous person to what is described as a super-celestial being. And to even start that transition, the author draws a hard line in the sand regarding rationality.
Yeah, the dichotomy presented is incredibly strict. Rational thinking is framed entirely as the characteristic of the virtuous person,
Right.
whereas spiritual thinking is the characteristic of the celestial being. So if you want to become celestial, spiritual thinking isn't optional. It's literally the only way to live.
I have to admit, my immediate reaction is to just push back on this entirely.
Sure, that makes sense.
Is rationality truly being framed as a limitation here? Because being virtuous and rational sounds pretty good to me. I like my pros and cons list.
We all love a good list.
Right. It feels almost like being a virtuous, rational thinker makes you a really good, dependable employee.
Right.
You follow the rules, you do your job, you don't rock the boat.
Yeah.
But learning spiritual thinking supposedly makes you the owner of the whole company or, the universe. And I'm really supposed to look at my ability to reason as a handicap?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it helps if we look at it not as a handicap, but as a bounded framework.
Okay, a bounded framework. How so?
Well, Shuifeng isn't explicitly condemning the virtuous person or saying that logic is inherently evil or anything.
Right.
Rather, spiritual thinking is framed as a necessary fundamental evolution. Think about it like physics.
Physics. Okay, I'm with you.
For your everyday life, driving your car, building a bridge, catching a baseball, Newtonian physics works perfectly. It's reliable. It is, in this context, virtuous.
Right, it gets the job done.
Exactly. But if you want to understand the vast cosmos or the quantum level of reality, Newtonian physics completely breaks down.
Oh, wow, I see.
You have to leave those old rules behind and embrace quantum mechanics. You literally cannot achieve the higher celestial state using the tools that govern the mundane state.
That makes a lot of sense.
Reason gets you to the border of human potential, but spiritual thinking is the passport required to cross over.
I totally see the physics comparison, but practically speaking, abandoning logic sounds terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
If I drop my rational planning, don't I just become chaotic? If you, the listener, are sitting there thinking, all right, I want to cross that border. I want to upgrade from Newtonian to quantum, from virtuous to celestial. How do we actually do that without our lives just falling apart?
Right, there has to be a method.
Exactly. Shuifeng must outline some sort of mechanics for this transition.
Absolutely. And this brings us to the internal practices required for what the philosophy calls sublimation.
Sublimation, meaning like turning your heavy, stressful daily grind into something weightless.
Precisely. I mean,
Okay.
in a literal chemical sense, sublimation is when a heavy, solid substance transitions directly into a light gas.
Oh, like dry ice?
Yes. Completely bypassing the messy liquid phase. It is a radical elevation of state. But to achieve the sublimation of your life quality, Shuefeng introduces two internal practices that, honestly, on the surface, seem to directly contradict each other.
They really do. This is the part that had me scratching my head.
Yeah.
Because on one hand, the absolute mandatory condition for this process is repentance. It's stated very clearly, no repentance, no sublimation.
Right?
But then almost in the same breath, the focus shifts entirely to the power of imagination and manifesting beauty.
It's quite a pivot.
We are told that imagining beauty brings beauty, imagining ugliness brings ugliness.
Yeah.
And there's this prescribed daily practice of thinking good and happy things every single day just to make yourself happy.
It is a fascinating juxtaposition of emotional states.
But wait, how do those even coexist? Walk me through this. Because on one side, I'm supposed to be doing repentance, which universally implies,
Yeah.
sitting with guilt, focusing on past wrongs, and really looking at the darkest parts of myself. And on the other side, I'm supposed to be living in this bubble of pure, imaginative beauty and happy thoughts.
It sounds impossible.
Right. If I try to do both, won't I just end up completely emotionally paralyzed?
It is a brilliant point of friction, and it really gets to the core mechanism of how human psychology and spiritual transformation intersect. The contradiction disappears when you understand why trying to just think positive thoughts usually fails for most people.
Oh, okay. Why does it fail?
Because if you just try to plaster happy thoughts over an unacknowledged past, your ego is secretly still running the show. You're engaging in basically toxic positivity.
Ah, yeah, I've definitely seen that.
Your mind is still defending its old mistakes. It's holding on to resentments and carrying the dense, solid weight of past actions.
Oh, wait, so it's almost like trying to run a massive next-generation video game on a hard drive from 1998 that is
Yeah.
just full of malware.
Yes, that is an excellent way to conceptualize it.
Like, you can install the beautiful new game, but it's going to crash immediately because the system is all clogged up.
Exactly. Repentance is the act of uninstalling the corrupted software. It's the demolition work.
Wow, okay.
Without the heavy lifting of repentance, without fully acknowledging and clearing out that dense material of ego-driven errors, you simply do not have the RAM, the internal space, for the lightness of imagining beauty to actually function.
So the repentance basically neutralizes the ego's defenses. It walks the hard drive clean.
Exactly. It isn't about wallowing in guilt forever. It is a clearing mechanism. It burns away the old structure.
That makes so much more sense.
Right. Once you've done that deep uninstall, then the manifestation principles can actually take root. You have created a pristine, empty internal environment where the law of imagining beauty brings beauty can operate without the interference of your subconscious baggage.
That reframes it completely. The repentance isn't a punishment at all. It's just preparing the soil.
Yep.
It's the heavy demolition work. And then the happy thoughts build the new celestial architecture. So, okay, if that handles our inner world, what about the world around us?
Ah, the outer world.
Right, because the philosophy doesn't just stop at our feelings. It demands a fundamental change in how we interact with reality itself.
Yes, the outer work. This is where we move into the concept of formlessness and stripping away illusion.
Okay.
The philosophy argues that formlessness reveals the truth, while selflessness reveals the true self.
And it specifically warns against becoming obsessed with what it calls dharma forms, right?
Yes, exactly.
It claims that clinging to these forms traps you in a cycle of reincarnation, and that breaking through them is literally the only way to finally see heaven. It even demands that we live with a mind that dwells nowhere and feelings that attach to nothing.
These are really profound concepts with deep roots. I mean, to give some context, in various Eastern traditions, dharma can refer to the underlying universal law of nature. But when we talk about dharma forms in this specific context, we are talking about the temporary physical and social manifestations of reality, the labels, the status, the physical objects, the rigid identities we build for ourselves.
So what does this all mean? So a dharma form is like my job title, my mortgage, my social media following.
Yes, all of the above.
It almost sounds like playing a character in a video game and completely forgetting that you are the player.
You are hitting on the exact mechanism of attachment. When you are obsessed with a dharma form, you're reacting to societal pixels as if they are impenetrable brick walls.
Right. So it's essentially like refusing to take off a pair of VR goggles.
Oh, I love that analogy.
Think about it. You, the listener, might be wearing these goggles right now. You are so convinced that the virtual simulation, your career ladder, your financial status, what your neighbors think of you, is absolute reality.
Yeah, you get totally lost in it.
Exactly. You get so stressed about the game that your real heart rate spikes. You keep playing the same stressful level over and over again, which is what Zhufeng might liken to being trapped in reincarnation.
This raises an important question, right? The VR analogy is perfect for understanding the how of this philosophy. When you are in the simulation, every digital threat feels like a matter of actual survival.
Yeah, a bad email feels like a tiger attacking you.
Exactly. Your ego is fighting to protect an avatar that doesn't even really exist outside the game.
So breaking through to formlessness is just realizing you can reach up, pull the headset off, and see the actual quiet room you're standing in.
Yes,
And that realization, that unburdening, is what the text calls heaven.
precisely. And this is why it is so crucial to ask yourself, what are the Dharma forms in your own life? Is your ultimate Dharma form your LinkedIn profile? Is it a toxic relationship you cling to because society tells you you should be married by a certain age? As long as your mind dwells on these rigid structures and your feelings attached to them, you are bound by the coded rules of this simulation.
Wow.
Achieving selflessness means there is no avatar left to protect. Feelings that attach to nothing isn't about being dead inside. It is about taking the goggles off.
I love that distinction.
Yeah.
Because it sounds incredibly cold at first, attached to nothing, but when you realize it just means not being emotionally manipulated by a simulation, it sounds like absolute freedom.
It really is.
You aren't indifferent to life. You're just no longer held hostage by it.
It is a state of supreme unburdening. You just drop the weight of managing the avatar. And that leads us directly into the climax of Zhufeng's framework.
Okay, let's go there.
If you have cleared the malware through repentance and you have taken off the VR goggles by dropping your Dharma forms, what happens next?
Well, this is where we reach the final destination, right? The state of the super celestial being. And I have to warn you, the listener, the way Zhufeng says we unlock this state sounds completely, wildly counterintuitive.
Oh, it challenges everything modern culture teaches us about success.
It really does.
Yeah.
Because to reach this ultimate cosmic power, the philosophy demands absolute total surrender. It says you must trust and worship God, hand over your life completely, and let the Tao arrange and manage everything for you.
Yeah.
The promised result of handing over the steering wheel is zero resentment, zero regret, zero worry, anxiety, or fear.
Total submission of the personal, rational will.
Right, but here's where it gets really interesting, and I'm going to push back hard here. I hear total submission, and honestly, it sounds like a massive cop-out.
I can see why you'd say that.
Giving up control in the real world usually just gets you walked all over. It sounds like a recipe for apathy. But then the philosophy claims that the result of this absolute surrender is staggering godlike power.
It's quite the claim.
It says your consciousness is suddenly unbound by material constraints. The 3,000 macro worlds become your stage for entertainment.
Just to quickly clarify that term for the listener, 3,000 macro worlds is a concept drawing from Buddhist cosmology. It essentially means the vast, infinite scale of the universe. Multiple dimensions, countless galaxies. It represents the ultimate macrocosm.
Thank you, that helps. So the infinite universe becomes your playground. And then Zhufeng uses this incredibly vivid imagery. Lifting a handful of sand and transforming it into thousands of green trees is merely a petty skill.
A petty skill. Think about that.
Right. Creating an entire beautiful world is just a specialty of the celestial being. So here's my problem. How does being completely submissive to the Tao suddenly give you the power to turn sand into forests?
It sounds like a paradox.
Exactly. How does giving up all your ambition make you the ultimate cosmic creator? Walk me through this, because it feels like a massive contradiction.
What's fascinating here is that it is the ultimate paradox of spiritual thinking. And you are completely right to be skeptical because you are viewing it through the lens of rationality.
Guilty as charged.
You are fundamentally misunderstanding what control actually is. In our rational, virtuous state, we associate power with force.
Like exerting effort.
Exactly. If you want to build a forest, you have to buy the land, hire a crew, fight the zoning laws, plant the seeds, and manage the irrigation.
Ugh, I'm exhausted just hearing that list.
Right. It is exhausting. It is entirely based on friction and fighting against reality to impose your tiny personal will upon it.
Right. It requires immense management and stress.
But this philosophy suggests that fighting reality is exactly what makes us weak. The Tao can be understood as the underlying natural divine flow of the universe. It's the current of the river.
Okay, I like that visual.
When you surrender your personal ego, your need to control, your anxieties, your rigid plans, you remove the friction. You are no longer swimming upstream until your arms give out.
You just let the current take you.
Yes. By surrendering to the Tao, you don't become nothing. You become one with the infinite engine of the universe itself.
Ooh, wait. So you aren't forcing the sand to become trees through your own exhausting willpower?
Exactly. You are no longer an isolated battery trying to power an entire city. Because you have achieved formlessness and let go of your Dharma forms, your consciousness operates on the frequency of the universe itself.
Wow.
Notice how Shui Feng uses words like entertainment and specialty. This implies that for a super-celestial being, creation is not a chore. It's not a project to be managed with a pros and cons list. It is pure play.
It is this shift from being the stressed-out CEO of your life to becoming a carefree artist.
That's the exact transition. When you surrender the management of your life to the Tao, turning sand into green trees is a petty skill because you aren't doing the heavy lifting anymore.
It's just riding the wave.
Yes, you are simply directing the natural flow of the cosmos, which, wants to create beauty anyway. The surrender isn't about becoming weak or apathetic. It is about plugging your consciousness directly into the source code of reality.
So cool.
Once you stop trying to control the simulation from the inside, you become the developer. You are just playing with the code.
That is staggering. It completely flips the idea of surrender on its head. And Zhu Feng explicitly notes that these are advanced cultivation practices.
Yes, very advanced.
This isn't just something you decide to try on a random Tuesday. It is the culmination of everything we've talked about today. Like, you can't play with the code until you've uninstalled the malware of your ego and taken off the VR headset of your societal attachments.
It is a profound sequential trajectory. Every single step is necessary for the next.
It really is. So let's pull all of this together and synthesize the journey we have been on today. We started by confronting the uncomfortable idea that our prized rationality, our virtuous logic, might actually be the very ceiling keeping us trapped in a limited existence.
Right. And then we explored the mechanics of breaking through that ceiling. How the painful but necessary act of repentance clears out our internal hard drive, making space for the manifestation of beauty without the interference of a defensive ego.
Yeah. From there, we looked outward, realizing that the Dharma forms we obsess over, our titles, our wealth, our societal roles, are just pixels in a VR headset.
Exactly.
By detaching our feelings from them, we aren't becoming cold, we are achieving the ultimate freedom of formlessness.
And finally, we arrived at the ultimate paradox. By completely surrendering our exhausting need to manage and control our lives, we align with the Tao. We drop the friction of the ego and unlock a state of cosmic play where creating beautiful worlds isn't a struggle, but a joyful, carefree specialty.
It is a massive, paradigm-shifting leap from making a pros and cons list to turning sand into a forest.
It really is.
And to bring this all the way back down to your reality, the listener, think about your commute today. Think about your inbox. Think about the social hierarchies you are navigating. Consider how much of your daily burnout stems directly from trying to logically force reality to bend to your will.
It's so draining.
How much energy are you wasting trying to protect a digital avatar in a game you don't even have to play?
It is a vital reflection. Shui Feng's philosophy challenges you to imagine what might happen if, even for just a moment today, you stopped gripping the steering wheel so tightly. What would happen if you allowed your consciousness to unbind itself from those rigid, rational constraints?
We spend so much of our lives agonizing over the tiniest grains of control. Yet this text tells us that for a super-celestial being, transforming a handful of sand into thousands of green trees is nothing more than a petty skill. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a lingering question to carry with you. Look closely at the friction in your life right now. What invisible sand in your rigidly rational life are you endlessly struggling with, stressing over, and trying to manage, simply because you haven't yet given yourself permission to take off the goggles, surrender the struggle, and try spiritual thinking?